Welcome to Biology, Adaptation of Plants and Animals for Survival. In this class, we're looking at 6-mark questions associated with biology, adaptations of plants and animals for survival of predators and for the environment. I'm Laura Lewis, and we'll look at the first 6-mark question. So 6-mark questions are usually the questions where students find the hardest, and they miss marks on sort of certain things such as the way that they write the question and the keywords they use, because quite commonly a student will write a lot, but there won't be much content to it. So in this class, we're looking at actually how to actually get those marks and not to miss them, because yeah, six marks is quite a big chunk of a question, and it's the most marks that you'll get in a single question. Okay, so let's read the first one. So it says, in this question, you will be assessed on using good English, organising information clearly, and using specialist terms where appropriate. So plants and animals have become adapted in many different ways to reduce the risk of being eaten by predators. Describe these adaptations and give examples of animals and plants adapted in the ways you describe. So there's a few things going on here, obviously. It says, first of all, it says using good English, so there has to be a full sentence. If you just write words on their own, you're unlikely to get marks. You might get one, you're not going to get many. Because in some questions, like 1 or 2 mark questions, you may get the marks, but in 6 mark you don't, because they've warned you that it's use good English, so it's to do with actually writing out fully. You can write short sentences, so I'm going to do. I don't have to write a very long essay, but I have to write so it makes sense, really. Also, let's have a look also at the key thing. So in an exam, you can either sort of underline it, or you can write it out again. So what I will do is write it out again. So it says so let's read it through. So plants and animals have become adapted in many different ways to reduce the risk of being eaten by predators. So this is the thing about how, obviously, we just write it again to establish it in our minds, really, that what he's asking, how plants and animals, or animals and plants, plants and animals are adapted to reduce the risk of being eaten by predators. So what they can do to stop themselves being eaten by predators. It's not the environment, this question, because yeah, you won't be given any marks on environmental adaptations like thick fur because they live in the Arctic, things like that. That's not to do with this question. So sometimes a student will write something which is factually correct. Example would be a penguin's got a thick thick layer of fat, or a seal's got a thick layer of fat, live in the Arctic. I mean, that's true, but it's not what the question's asking. So you need to actually look at what the question's asking. Everyone's made that mistake before. I've made that mistake by sometimes in an exam, obviously pressurized time, and you just read through something quickly and don't really think about what's being asked. So eaten by predators. Okay. How do you describe these adaptations? Next, we have to describe the adaptations and give examples. Okay, describe the adaptations and give examples. Okay, so we kind of summarise the question there. So let's start thinking about immediately what comes to mind straight away. Is an animal can camouflage itself. So that's the first thing. So camouflage. So it's a funny word to spell, actually, camouflage. Okay, so obviously it blends. So an animal can blend into its surroundings. And you have to say about how that helped as well, because just to say that, you're not actually explaining it. Okay, so to avoid being, I mean, it's easy, obviously. I mean, everyone knows it's to avoid being seen by predators, but sometimes people don't write it. Seen by predators. So an example of this, I mean, there's lots of animals that do this, but an obvious one would be a stick insect. They are very good at blending in, aren't they? They look like a stick. Would be a stick insect. Okay, because it lives in the trees and the plants, and it blends in so well that we even call it a stick insect. We get leaf insects as well. Plants don't use much camouflage like that. So chameleons, so sort of lizards that change colour. That's another example. Can change colour to blend. Some fish can do this as well. Some octopi can do this. Cuttlefish. But there's lots of things. But I think that the one in an exam would probably come to mind would be a chameleon or stick insect would come to mind. They're very obvious ones, and obviously that would give you the same amount of marks as anything else. So don't worry about providing something which is you think is obvious, because that still gives you marks. Okay, warning coloration. Okay, so this is when an animal is brightly coloured to indicate that it is poisonous for the predator to eat. For the predator to eat. Ladybirds actually poisonous to eat by other animals, so they are quite pretty to us. So I always think ladybirds have red and black, but very distinctive. They're not blending into anything, are they? They sort of stick out quite a lot. So they've kind of employed, and they've kind of used the other tactic of warning a predator that they're poisonous. About colouring to indicate they are poisonous. Birds, isn't it? They eat things like that. Mimicry. That's another thing. So some animals resemble. So it means look like. Okay, it means look like. Look like a poisonous animal. To warn of predators, but are not poisonous themselves. There's quite a few things that do this, but an example would be a hoverfly. They're quite common in England. So hoverfly, because they look like wasps, don't they? They look like wasps. Sort of got the yellow and black colouring, stripy colouring, but they do not have a sting. Some snakes do this as well. And you could write some snakes, don't have the exact species. Some snakes are non-venomous, but have colouring that is similar to venomous species. That's okay, we've got quite a few examples there. Okay, so yeah, I always think of the hoverfly because it sort of flies in the room, doesn't it? So you always think of things you'll remember. The flies in the room, and you sort of everyone goes, "Ooh!" Like jumps up. They're just flies. They don't have a sting. They pollinate flowers. Actually, they're quite harmless. And obviously they hover, which wasps don't really do actually as well. Okay, so we've got a little bit of the animal kingdom. Think about what plants have, include animals as well. So thorns or prickles. I think we all experienced this, or even like a sort of sting. Okay, so some plants, such as a rose, commonly obviously that's thorns. We've all experienced one in the garden, someone's garden has thorns to damage predators or harm predators. that try to eat it. Blackberry bushes, so there's quite a lot of plants here. These are quite common in England too. Have prickles, so it's not quite thorns, that harm predators. And probably another very obvious one, stinging nettles. Have stings to harm predators. I mean, if you just touch it, isn't it so effective? Okay. So you could have obviously have stings. You could have a jellyfish, couldn't you? So spines or horns. Think about this, lots of animals. So hedgehogs have spines, and porcupines harm predators. Rhinos have horns because they're herbivores. It's for defense, they don't kill and eat things. To defend themselves against predators. Okay. Also, lastly, we'll go for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Large, because you have 5 marks for content, and there's 1 for how you've written it. Okay, so they're not going to be too hot on it, but obviously look at how you've written something. Okay, right, so it's not the word prickles, don't worry about that. Okay, so large ears and a position of the eyes, so position of eyes. So prey usually have larger ears to hear predators, and their eyes are at the side of their head, their heads, so they can see all around them. An example would be a rabbit, this one. So think about it. Animals that are prey animals, your eyes near the side of their head, whereas a predator, cats, dogs, even humans, we have eyes in the front. Owls, another one, have eyes in the front, so we can see what we're hunting. We don't need to be really looking around. We are the predator. You'd be looking around. Obviously, there are other sensible things that you could answer for this question, but I think that's a good summary. So move on to a different question. So this is how to avoid being eaten by predators, that one. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, so kind of slip down the page, that question. So again, this is another 6-mark question, but slightly different. In this question, again, you'll be assessed on using good English, organising information clearly, and using specialist terms where appropriate. So same type of thing. So animals and plants have features, so adaptations, that allow them to survive in the conditions in which they normally live. Okay, so it's going to be about environment, isn't it? Describe how animals and plants, so both, are adapted to survive in dry conditions such as deserts. Okay, it's not desert, it's desert, a dry place. For each adaptation that you give, describe how the adaptation helps the animal or plant to survive in dry conditions. Okay. Right, so let's think about again, so a summary of what we asked. So it's about environment this time, isn't it? It's not predators, it's environment. Okay. So environment, so how both, it says there, so it says to obtain full marks, you should refer to both animals and plants. So environment, how both animals and plants are adapted to dry conditions such as deserts. Okay, that's the key things, isn't it there? So how? Okay, so it means asking how they are. Okay, so I think about something that lives in the desert. Okay, so what comes to my mind straight away is a cactus. Okay, it's a plant. So some people might struggle with plants, but cactus in this case is very easy because you see a picture of a desert, you see cacti, don't you? So a cactus. So let's think about how that is adapted to live in the desert. So a cactus stores water in its stem, okay, for use in dry times. This actual feature is called succulents. You may have heard of a plant called a succulent. That they are related to cacti, but they don't have spines, and they all store water in their stems. And they're quite popular house plants because they don't need to water that much. So yeah, they're for dry times. They have spines instead of leaves to lower their water loss by transpiration. So that's the process where plants lose water by obviously the leaves of stomata. So let's write that in actually. So let's write that about stomata. So the outer coating, so the outer part, so the outer part of the cactus is coated in a waxy layer. Okay, you sort of feel a cactus like the green bit, not spines. It's kind of like hard. It's called waxy. Okay, so it's like a waxy coating. A bit different to other plants. Okay, to reduce water loss from the stomata. So it's little holes in the stem. So they still have some because you're taking carbon dioxide still and emit oxygen, but they don't have as many as other plants. Stomata. Okay, so it's a cactus. Anything else? Cactus, cacti. Oh, also, you might not know this, but you will learn something if you didn't know. Cacti, so more than one, have deep roots. So deep roots that spread out as well. So a very sort of large root system to find more water. Okay, because it's all under the ground as well. Okay, so that's a cactus. Let's think about obviously you get other plants such as succulents related to a cactus as well. So let's think about a camel. That's what you think of as well, don't you? So a camel stores fat, so water in the form of fat in its hump. Okay. So this can be converted to water. Okay, so so they've got long. If you're in close to a camel, they've got long eyelashes. They're quite sort of pretty animals. Long camels, long eyelashes to keep sand. Obviously, deserts usually covered in sand. Sand out of their eyes. Okay. Also, think about wide feet. Yeah, they've got quite wide feet. So to allow the camel to walk on the sand without sinking. We've got quite a lot of adaptations there. Okay, it was nice to get 6 marks. So just think if there's some other animals in the desert that would also get you that would also give marks. So the tortoises, live in the desert in burrows to keep out of the daytime sun. And most animals in deserts are nocturnal, so that means they come out at night. Come out at night. To avoid the heat from the daytime sun. Okay, so referred to both animals and plants there. Okay, so that would have achieved 6 marks. So yeah, it's about how you write it, and it is about obviously certain keywords you've got there, like stomata, you've got nocturnal, succulent, so described, you know, that was so that would be enough to get 6 marks. Okay, so thank you for joining this class, and I hope to see you in another one. Thank you and goodbye.